Thanks, Austin, and welcome everyone. I'm very excited to be having a conversation today with one of Beekeeper's amazing customers, Chalhoub Group. But before we dive in, let me introduce myself. I'm Valentina Recupero, Head of Customer Success at Beekeeper, and today I'm here with Sarah. Sarah, can you quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. Hi Valentina. I'm Sarah Cousin. I'm the Head of Internal Communications at Chalhoub Group.
Thanks, Sarah. That's amazing. And thank you for that. And let's jump over to our agenda and get started today. So we have a quick and simple agenda for today. We have already started with our introduction. And next, I'll give an overview of Beekeeper and Chalhoub Group. And then we will jump into discussion with Sarah with some questions and reserve some time at the end for a Q&A. So to start off, who is Beekeeper? So for those of you that don't know, we are a mobile-first app that is built specifically for your non-desk workforce. And those team members, for example, that are on the front line, and in the case of Chalhoub, on the retail floor. We become the one-stop shop for your top-down, bottom-up, peer-to-peer communication, regardless of shifts, different locations, different languages. And also we make sure that we integrate your current systems so that all your employees has access to the important information that they need to be successful. So you can see here some of our great customers that we work with along with the Chalhoub Group. And Sarah?
Yes, so the Chalhoub Group is one of the largest retail operators in the Middle East. So we specialize in luxury in both the beauty and the fashion segments. We have a workforce of over 12,000 employees located in 8 different countries. As Valentina mentioned, we are heavily reliant on frontline workforce. So 75% of our population is in the retail floor, so in stores. And we have over 100 different nationalities across the group. So, and you can see over there some examples of some of our brands, either our own brands or franchise brands that we work with, or in partnerships brands.
All right, thank you very much for this, Sarah. Now let's then jump into our conversation. I have a first question for you. So the first question is really about the COVID-19, due to the COVID-19, there has been some changes in the retail environment. And we would like to learn more about some of how this has impacted your retail operations.
Yes, well, as a retailer, you can imagine that we've been very highly impacted. Our stores were closed temporarily after the different countries' lockdowns. So this changed radically everything for us in terms of the retail environment. However, how we've adapted to this is that we've changed with a lot of speed and agility. So we focused a lot on our e-commerce journey. We launched 12 websites in a very short period of time, in 2 weeks' time. We moved all our stocks from our stores to the warehouses to be able to cater to the needs of our customers. Our warehouse employees have been busier than ever, as you can imagine, with the necessary precautionary measures, obviously, but to ensure that we also continue to deliver to our customers. Our brands, we're continuously engaging with our consumers. So even though everyone is working from home, whether our frontline teams or our back office teams are working from home, but still maintaining that engagement with the customers, to have that human connection, because this is what is important to continue to delight them wherever they are. So we are maintaining contact with them through different communication platforms, social media being one of them, as you can imagine. Keeping in touch with them, having different workshops, sharing lots of tips, whether as in terms of well-being, in terms of how the brands can support as well their own like everyday routine. There's lots of creative ideas, honestly, that have been put there, like working out with the different products that we offer. We also have our loyalty program that have more of a human connection, showing how the community is living in those in the COVID-19 times, with a lot of creative ways of how we spend our time. So basically, it's a lot about customer centricity and how we try to maintain this relevancy with our customers and listening to them, you know, understanding them and still delivering whatever we can to them.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. So my next question will be then how your communication strategy has been affected, and how were you communicating instead before?
So before, just for everyone to understand, we do have several platforms that we use internally. So we have our intranet, we have the employee app with Beekeeper, we use emails, and we also, because we have a lot of frontliners, we use a lot of our network of area managers through them, you know, through their face-to-face meetings with the employees. And we have screens, you know, digital displays in some of our offices. So after the lockdown, obviously with everyone being at home, things have changed slightly. So basically what happened is that there's a huge increase that happened on our employee app, because that was the easiest way for all our employees to stay connected to one another, and for us at a group level to cascade the important information, because today obviously there's a lot of communication need, and a lot of top-down messages obviously had to be communicated super fast and super clear. So that was the main, I would say, the main way of communicating to our employees is a lot on our app. We've also strengthened our communication, our usual way of communicating with our employees, because now everyone is closer together, and there's this worldwide need anyways of us connecting with each other. So this is how our strategy has a little bit evolved, in the fact that employee engagement came not only from us with initiatives, but amongst themselves. So you see a lot of people inventing challenges and finding ways to express how they're supporting each other throughout different ideas and creative ways, honestly, and how they are coping with the current situation. So this is how we are managing the communication now. It's much more about, yeah, connecting everyone in the right way, and of course super quick communication, and when it's regards to what the governments are also putting in place.
Amazing, thank you. So this brings us to the next question, that is basically how you're planning then your communication for the future with this level of uncertainty that there is in the market right now.
Yeah, well, obviously with all of this uncertain times, usually we try to plan things, and right now planification, like planning, is a little bit more difficult. So for when we can plan, we are still doing a lot of that. So the more we plan ahead, the better the communication is in those times because of uncertainty, obviously according to what we can. However, we work a lot with our C-suite and the leaders to make sure that we are informing, inspiring, and engaging our employees in the right way. So that goes with us looking at currently what are the concerns of our employees. There's a lot of mental well-being that is coming up. So we try to have the right way of communicating to them in the right approach, obviously, to make sure that with whatever is happening right now, we're still answering the needs of our employees. In terms of things that are more COVID related, we're obviously we're looking at the right source. So it's all the announcements of the World Health Organization and the local governments and authorities, whatever is official and confirmed, we're cascading it down to make sure that everyone has the right messages. So we're always having a close eye on these, I would say, official sources, to make sure that's given and shared to the different employees. Then, because of uncertainty, I would say that this is where we need to listen more to our employees. So we are asking them a lot of, we're asking them to share their concerns and share their questions with us. And we answer them through FAQ documents. So we have lots of different FAQ documents, so that we make sure that we try to answer as much as possible all their queries, because that is what uncertainty means, is that you have lots of questions and you wonder what's going on. Now, obviously, we don't know when this is going to end exactly, etc. We don't have answers to everything. However, replying as much as possible through multiple channels as well to the concerns of the employees is what we're really focusing on. And we're also trying to have it on a regular approach, because as we all know in communication, it's not because we communicated once in one place that people will know. So multiple channels, but also in a frequent way, to ensure that the messages are cascaded, to ensure that we are reassuring the teams or motivating them. And a lot is, as I said earlier, a lot is with the support of our leaders, because we as the internal communications team, or us working with the CEO and the different leadership teams, that's not enough. We need to ensure that the middle management, HR, everyone around the employees are the ones that are communicating on a regular basis with transparency and answering the concerns of the employees. So we support a lot, we work a lot with them as well to ensure this is done, because that's the somehow only thing we can do with the uncertainty that's around us these days.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So the next question that I have for you then is, what has been the most impactful or the most important learning in this situation that you would like to share with other communicators as a takeaway?
Well, a little bit like what I was saying earlier, for me, I would say transparency is what I learned personally was the most valued part of communication. Like, we all know we should be, but I would say before COVID, it might not be the thing that everyone could put in place or influence their leadership team to do. Whereas I feel that what happened with COVID made us really learn that transparency is a very important element of communication, and people appreciate transparency. So even when we have to make announcements that are a bit difficult to hear, we as communicators, we know how to somehow change the tone if necessary. However, as long as the content remains genuine and transparent, I feel that this is where communication becomes successful in those times. So more than ever, I feel that it's important for us as communicators to influence the rest of the communicators in your company, if it's not only you, to be as transparent as possible. Of course, we don't have the answers to everything, and it's fine, it's totally normal and it's understandable. But let's say it, let's say it to our employees that we don't necessarily have the answers to everything. However, we are working on X, Y, Z, whatever it is. So I really think that this is going to be something that hopefully along the way in communication, in the world of communication in general, we are all going to learn from this and continue, obviously, to use transparency as a element of our communication plans.
Thank you. Before, you mentioned employee engagement and how your employees are engaging in these times. So can you tell us more of how are you managing employee engagement, the employee engagement topic in these times?
Yeah, I have to admit, a lot is done by us as the team at HR internal comms, but a lot is done by the employees themselves. So first thing is we created a stream on my Chalhoub is the name of our app, the Beekeeper app for us at the group. So we created a stream that is a COVID stream, so on which people have all the information needed, or any initiatives that are put in place are kept there. But then we also created another stream which is called Chalhoub Tube. So it's basically an area where employees get engaged with one another. There's a video that is shared every week on a specific topic. So it could be, how are you working from home with your kids, doing homeschooling for your kids, how you're keeping your workout routine, how do you connect with your colleagues with all the virtual meetings, etc. So we have those streams, and people engage a lot through those different channels. We also have a lot going on about well-being. As I said earlier, it's a critical time for us to look after the well-being of our employees. If your companies are not yet doing it, I really strongly advise that you do it, because that is really fundamental these days. So what we've put in place are little challenges, either that we at the group level we put in, or the employees themselves. So they engage a lot through that. They share best practices as well. So we have tips or best practice on how to kind of, keep the momentum going with our teams, regardless of wherever we are. And we also have a lot of e-learning programs. So these days are also days where we can develop ourselves further and learn new skills and adapt a little bit to what's going to come after COVID. So we have a lot of e-learning programs that continue, that maintains our employees' engagement and motivates them. So that's another element, I would say, of employee engagement. And as I said earlier, feedback. A lot is about asking for their feedback, asking about their concerns, making sure that they're sharing their questions. So we have multiple ways for them to share their questions and share their concerns. We do pulse surveys, we have question boxes. So really different ways for them to open up, to speak up. And we also have webinars. So similarly to what we're doing right now, we have our internal ones with some key experts from different business, where they can share best practices or tips. We also have live sessions with our CEO, who answers directly Q&As, live Q&A with our employees. So yeah, I feel like it's been a list of lots of different things, but yeah, I feel that there's a lot of initiatives that we're putting in place, or that the employees themselves are putting in place right now about employee engagement.
Yeah, it sounds really amazing. So what would be then the one piece of advice that you will give to all participants on our webinar today, now based on your experience?
So I did trainings on crisis communication before, and I'm sure a lot of you as well. But every crisis is different, and you can get ready as much as you want. But when it happens, things are a little bit more. This is how do you say? This one is a very different crisis, if we are to say. So it turned everything upside down in a way. And even though we were ready in terms of framework and the way we communicate, I feel that because the world, all of us, we went back to basics with what's going on with COVID, and we're all very vulnerable to this uncertainty that is going around us. So for me, my advice and where this has kind of brought us to is to be human. So to be human as a communicator, to be genuine, to have the right balance between the heart and the mind, to be understanding and empathetic to whoever you're talking to. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We're communicating to human beings. We're not robots. So people have different emotional resilience, right? Especially in stressful times like right now. And what is going on right now is really testing our stress levels and our emotional resilience. So this is why I feel that being human is what we should be focusing on as communicators, because that is the only I would say the most important element. If anyone asks me about communication these days, it's human. That would be the word of the day for me, is that really being human is what will help us.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing all these insights.
Pleasure. So, thank you.
The next thing is that I would like also to share with our participants today is what Beekeeper has developed for this particular time. So we understand that the times are changing, and now more than ever, having instant access to your employees has become a priority for you. So we developed the Beekeeper Crisis Ready Kit, It's a kit that provides you access to rapid rollout within 48 hours, free access to Beekeeper app and all its features for a limited time. And it also includes a crisis communication checklist, which is very powerful, and we offer also as a takeaway from this webinar to maximize your communication during this time. And if you want to access the crisis ready kit, you can just click on the link in the pop-up or visit beekeeper.io. All right, so I want to thank you again, Sarah, for this conversation. It was very inspiring, very insightful. And as the next thing, I would like now to open up for questions. I've seen that there have been a few questions coming, so let me check. And so we can start. There are a few. All right, I think we have time for a couple of questions, but I promise we will respond to all the questions after webinar via email. So here's one for you, Sarah. How are you planning for communication that's always changing? So from, you mentioned before also from the government, the World Health Organization, how do you do that?
So the planning happens when we know as much as possible whatever can come ahead of time. And so we try, let's say, different scenario, and we plan according to different scenario, because a lot of the time we know at the last minute. But at least what we try to do is creating in advance drafts in terms of what is really needed to be communicated to according to plan A, plan B, plan C.
Thank you. Let me then see, we have time for another one. So this person is asking, how do you know you're reaching every employee with your communication?
Yes, so good question. We actually look, I mean, the good news about digital communication is that everything has data. So we can check everything that we do, whether it's on the My Chalhoub app, whether it's about the engagement with the posts and the different streams that we have, whether it's about the usage, so how much they are actually now more and more coming on a more frequent basis, whether it's daily, whether it's weekly, etc. So we have access to all of this information. On the other communication platforms that we use, it's the same as well. The intranet is digital, so we know emails, we also can see response rates, etc. Webinars, we can know how many people attend. So we do make sure that in terms of data, we follow really and the trend and analyze it. But also going back to what I was saying earlier, we ensure that we actually ask the questions to people to ensure that our communication was sent effectively. So getting their concerns, getting their replies is also another way of confirming that messages have been shared.
All right. Well, okay. So thank you again, Sarah, for joining today, for joining us in this very insightful conversation. It was really a pleasure. Yes.
It was my pleasure, and thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar.
Thank you, and have a great day, everyone. Talk soon.
Thanks. Bye.